love games here at Outside Xbox and Outside Extra, but sometimes there are games that everyone else seems to love that we just can't get into for whatever reason. Maybe we're bad at them, maybe they're too complicated, maybe they're just in a genre we don't like, but for all of us there are games that we desperately want to love, but we just can't. So join us for our picks of games we wish we could love, and let us know your pick for this topic in the comments.
Alucard, what is your business here?
I've come to put an end to this.
Still befriending mortals. I'll not ask you to return to our side, but I demand you cease your attack.
I will not.
You guys watch that Netflix Castlevania anime? Yeah. Man, it's so good. I enjoy it so much. The original is so brilliant. The fights look so cool, and Nocturne is so amazing. And I was watching it the other night, and I was just thinking about how much I love Castlevania conceptually. Like it's anime vampires.
Sexy vampires.
So sexy anime vampires. I don't need to say any more, but I will. The monsters are so enjoyable in Castlevania, and in the anime, like they're dredged up from the kind of lore of the games. I love kind of how out there and how weird and bizarre and how just sort of like throw everything at the wall the monsters in Castlevania are. I love
like Richter Belmont.
Richter Belmont. It's great, and speaking of the Belmonts, like I love and have read a great deal of Castlevania lore because there's all these great characters. I love that the Castlevania franchise spans, spans like eons of time and like generations of vampire fighters, and you really get this sense of this sort of like long through line all the way through history of like and into the future. Of folks like fighting vampires wherever they appear. I regularly listen to the Castlevania music because it's just some of the best video game music that was ever made. It's so good, and so many recognizable iconic themes, and I just wish I liked playing Castlevania. Full stop. It's weird. I've never finished a Castlevania game. I've played lots of them. I've never finished one though. The closest I came was... God, there are so many. It's so hard to remember which one is which. Was it... No, it was either Rondo of Blood or Portrait of Ruin. What's the one where you're a little future boy?
Rondo of Ruin.
Rondo... I think the closest I came was Dawn of Sorrow, which on a very long transatlantic flight, I just sort of settled in and I was like, all right, here we frickin' go. I got it as like the Castlevania collection on my Steam Deck. Everything was ready. And I think I nearly made it to the end, but by the end I was so lost. I had no idea where to go next. And I had ended up somehow like, even though I was just playing the game the way I felt like the game wanted me to play it, I could tell that I was like seriously like under-leveled and under-equipped. Everything was just getting really, really hard. Everything was like sort of killing me in one hit, and it just didn't feel like I'd played the game right. And that's been my experience with a lot of Castlevania games, I suppose. Weirdly, I have played a lot of Metroid games, and I really like the Metroid games, and obviously the fact that we have the term Metroidvania is a clue that those types of games sort of like, they have a lot in common. I think the difference is that Castlevania games tend to ask a little bit more from you in terms of keeping track of your character progression. It's a bit more RPG-y, there are more numbers, there are things to equip, there are weapons to unlock, stuff like that. There are kind of builds you can put together. Things that I love doing in, for example, a From Software RPG, but for whatever reason in Castlevania it just doesn't click with me. I think it's just this sort of nagging sense that I might be like going the wrong way all the time, or I'm not sure what it is, but I guess I don't have to be sure because the premise of this video is just things that we wish we liked but can't, and for me it's Castlevania games. I don't hate playing them, but when I think about Castlevania conceptually and how I just love everything about it and how much I enjoy any Castlevania media that isn't a Castlevania video game, I just think, man, I wish this worked. I wish this worked on me.
am on record extensively on the shortcomings of Starfield. And so now I'm going to talk about them some more, but from a different angle, because Starfield is the game, it is a recent game, but it is almost the definitive game that I should love, that I want to love, and I'm having a very hard time loving. Sorry, Starfield.
How about my foot up your ass, newsboy? That a big enough scoop for you? I really don't think that's appropriate talk.
On this occasion, the angle I want to attack Starfield is...
You're twisting the knife today. A strafing run across the bow.
Let me tell you a story about how I love space exploration, science fiction, the aspiration to explore space and strange new worlds and discover new things and push the boundaries of like human endeavor and human exploration. I think that is a noble goal. I think it is a very human and admirable thing to aspire to the stars. But I also, I have a long history of conversations with people who are like, why should we be spending all this money? And it is a fabulously expensive, dangerous, and difficult project to go to space. Why should we be spending all this money to go to space when we have so many problems here on Earth? Okay. Heavy, I know, right? And I would have said then that you might find an alien for one, and for two, like, it is so definitively human. You know, it is part of what makes us who we are, that we aspire to explore and that we aspire to learn and to, reach new places and really figure out where we fit in the universe. That is what I would have said. In more recent years, though, we have seen the commercialization of space by billionaires who, are making a real mess of it, if I'd say so myself. And I think it makes it harder for a Star Trek nerd like myself to be like, space is a noble and selfless goal, when actually I think what we're looking at is the aspiration to like industrialize and commercialize space travel, space exploration, mining, whatever we can out of the nearest possible space bodies. And that makes it less cool and admirable. And I am coming in a very roundabout way back to Starfield, because what I need from Starfield is to speak to that aspiration and that vision of space exploration being something so exciting and so noble and so inspiring. That's what I need from Starfield. Starfield, let me tell you, that is what I wanted from you. I wanted your vision for a space exploration that is pure. Pure sounds like the wrong word. That is fueled by that passion, and I didn't get it from you. I feel like there was probably at some level in the making of that game, it was fueled by that enthusiasm for space. But in the moment-to-moment, expression of that vision in Starfield, I don't really feel it. And I spoke previously about how I think there's a difficulty in Starfield where you're in a pre-populated space. You're in these settled systems, right? People have been here and explored and figured out this planet has some, creatures on it. Maybe you want to scan them, but you're not making first contact with, an extraterrestrial intelligence. Not for the most part in that game. That's not the main vibe. It's more like space exploration has become less impressive. It has become less difficult. It's become less wondrous. And I think losing that sense of awe and wonder is a shame. It's a shame from Starfield. And that is what I was so hungry for in Starfield, because I want to indulge that space exploration fantasy that I think has become a little bit kind of tarnished, a little bit chipped away at by recent developments in how we think about space and how we spend money on getting to space, etc., and how we justify big budgets on space exploration. I think that is a harder position perhaps than it was when I was a starry-eyed little kid, and I wanted Starfield to kind of take me back there. And it didn't, and that made me sad. But there we go. That's Starfield. Sorry, Starfields. I'll still play you. Don't go away. I will still play you. Maybe I'll get there sometime, but yeah, that's why I find it hard to love.
Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about Dead by Daylight, which is a great game. Don't get me wrong, I think it's an excellent game. I just can't do it right or well, which is a problem.
You're dead. You hear me? Dead.
So anyone who knows me knows that I love horror, like particularly slasher films, and Dead by Daylight is, I think, the greatest video game about almost all of these horror characters. Like, everyone's in it. So they just added Chucky from the Child's Play films, one of, I think, like consistently the best slasher franchise of the last 30 years. You can play as Michael Myers, Ghostface and Scream is in there. The alien from Aliens, Sadako from The Ring. Like, every possible horror character that you would want to play as in a video game is in this video game. And for some of these characters, this is the only time they've ever been in a video game. I mean, there's a couple of not very good Chucky games. I don't think there are any Halloween games. So if you want to play some of these characters, this is your only chance. I really like the setup. I think the kind of asymmetrical thing works really well. I love Friday the 13th. I think that's really good. So, you know, it's a great setup for it. I'm so bad at it that every time I play as a killer, all I do is run around the level, like frantically searching for people, not finding anyone. If I do find someone, I'll go with my knife at them. They will easily run away and hide, and then I'm back to square one. Playing as a survivor, I'm like, ooh, this is going to be really cool. I'm going to be trying to evade Michael Myers, the Shape, or the cackling Brad Dourif voiced Chucky. This will be very exciting. And what it is just fixing generators. So I'm just sat there going, and either the killer will come up and kill me instantly because I'm rubbish at running away and hiding, or I'll fix the generator, and then I'll go and fix another generator, and I won't even see the killer for like a 10-minute game. And then, so what it was 10 minutes of fixing generators in a field, and then I jogged through a gate, and I might see, you know, Ghostface going, "Arr, arr, I can't believe you did it." And I'm like, well, that was, I mean, yeah.
Is it tense while you're fixing the generators?
I mean, not really, because I'm like, okay, well, if someone comes up, I can't really do anything about it because I'm bad at running away. And then I'll just get carried on and put on a hook. And I'm like, well, this is the game now, being on a hook. And I'm like, anyone want to come and save me? And they're like, not really. You weren't adding much to the team. So I'm like, I'll just sit on this hook then. And then a big spider ghost comes and pulls me into the void. So yeah, I just like, it just feels like there's so much potential there, and I 100% acknowledge that it's on me, and people who are really good at the game have a great time. It's all thrilling games of cat and mouse with various exciting killers, and the way they do the content is so good as well. The regular content packs, the original killers that they put out are, you know, just as exciting and good as the licensed ones. You know, like the Korean boy band serial killer guy. They had that like freaky nurse. There's that woman who can control like crows. They're like really cool and interesting horror concept. All the backstory lore stuff is really interesting. You like read into the backstories behind all the characters. It's so good. And yet whenever I play it, I'm like, yes, it's time to play some Dead by Daylight. And then I'm either running through a field, not finding anyone, or sitting there wrenching screws into place on a generator. And it's just like, it never quite delivers what I want from the game. And that, again, it's on me, but I really wish I could enjoy Dead by Daylight more than I do.
You never know what trouble he'll get into next.
Now, I don't know that this one is going to reflect particularly well on me per se. Spill the beans. But the game I just can't get on with, that I would love to get on with, is Civilization 6.
We rise to the challenge and become something greater than ourselves. A civilization.
I used to play the old Civilization, the original Civilization game, which is like ancient. but I was a tiny kid and I thought it was really fascinating, right? It's like it spans all of sort of human history, from the point where you're a single group of like itinerant settlers building your first settlement, to the point where you know, way beyond into the future, where you're landing on in, you know, you're flying to Alpha Centauri, right? So the idea of a game that was so ambitious that it spanned that amount of time was fascinating, and I loved all the negotiating with leaders. I loved the technology tree. You know, you kind of worked your way through discovering different things and picking your route through, you know, human learning and knowledge to get to the end game as quickly as possible. So I really liked that as a concept. I think it's brilliant and wonderful. And so obviously, specifically when Civilization 6 came out for Switch, I was like, this is the perfect mobile game, right? You sit there, you dip in and out of it, and it just goes on for ages and is vast and expansive.
Discover the fun that awaits and lead your empire to greatness. Welcome.
But unfortunately, what it needed was a little warning pop-up for me specifically that says, I regret to inform you, you're too thick for this game now, because I can't win in that game at all. And it makes me sad.
Good news. Sid Meier's Civilization 6 is on Nintendo Switch. Bad news. You don't know where to start.
Civilization 1, which is the one I first played, and Civilization 6, which was the next game I played. I've not played 2, 3, I assume there's a 4 and a 5 in there somewhere. I hadn't played any of those. So the game had ballooned in complexity to the point where I no longer understood it. I was like Lestat from Interview with the Vampire, where it's been 400 years later and I don't understand the world I exist in, right?
Brendan Fraser in Encino.
Exactly, yeah. I'm like a Neanderthal, like rubbing sticks together and wondering why I can't operate a motor vehicle. Anyway, it's wildly more complex now. You know, there are many more ways to win the game. In the previous game, the 2 ways you won were either you were the first one to build a spaceship that flew all the way to Alpha Centauri, or you killed all the rest of the civilizations on the planet. Those were the 2 options, right? Now, you've got things like a cultural victory. What's a cultural victory?
Keep the tourism train rolling, and you'll become the envy of the world. Congrats, you just got a culture victory.
There's all these new ways to win, and what that means, essentially, is the AI has so many ways to be better at the game than I am. So what happens is I wander around like a violent, uncivilized person, trying to sort of conquer areas, and I fall out with everyone. I get smashed to bits by the AI, and then I lose. And presumably, I think the problem with the Civilization, obviously you switch the console off, but the implication is that the world continues without you and your petty, stupid civilization for idiots.
From the dust to which our civilization first rose, so too shall we return.
And they all carry on and, I don't know, win an enlightened cultural victory or something.
Broken.
Yeah.
Mike Ozymandias.
Yeah, exactly that.
Like you're deposed and they managed to rebuild.
Yeah, exactly, better and stronger.
This severe and afflicting loss will not be sustained. And England, thank Providence, will ascend again.
So yeah, Civilization 6, I would love to love it because I love the concept and I loved the original. Like genuinely, it was a game I played not just when it came out as a really tiny kid, but also like later in my like teens and stuff, I revisited it and played the original again, and like the Windows version, CivNet and things like that. What I will say is there was a brief moment where all my prayers were answered. There was a game that came out on the DS and the Xbox 360 and PS3 called Civilization Revolution. And what it did was it had all the fancy graphics of a modern Civilization game, but all the kind of original rules and the simplicity. There are, you know, they couldn't resist putting the cultural victory in there.
Only spoiled it.
But otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. You know, it pairs it back to a lot more simplistic stuff. You're not micromanaging the, I don't know, the taxation of individual boroughs of your cities or whatever the hell you're doing in Civilization 6. If I was able to give a good example, I would probably be better at the game. But anyway, you're not doing all that complicated stuff. It's a pared back version, but it looks nice. It had multiplayer. It was really, really good fun. So that's what I've gone to. Like, rather than playing Civilization 6, I think Civilization Revolution ended up on Games with Gold on a while ago on the Xbox, and I think that's the Civilization for me. Basic, just like me. So yeah, Civilization 6. I wish I loved you. There on the Switch, it looks so nice. It'd be so great for long plane journeys and train journeys and things like that. But unfortunately, I'm too stupid.
So, long-term fans of Outside Extra will know that I'm a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series. When it was announced that Assassin's Creed would be coming back to England, but back in time, I was very excited. But the thing is, when Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out, it was fine.
Just fine?
It was fine. I wanted to really like it.
It's everything you love or claim to love.
I think one of the biggest problems with Assassin's Creed Valhalla is it's very indicative of the game design choices that were happening at Ubisoft. In terms of like all the games were sort of like merging into one another. If there was a good thing in one of the games, they'd end up putting it in all of the other games. And so, you know, Assassin's Creed turned from this, parkour, sneaky round, stabby thing, and it had grown into this larger beast. At the end of the day, it meant for me, like, every time they were like, oh, the world's bigger, there's so many more extra side quests and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, do I want that though? Is that just, you know, and when I got my hands on the game, I just felt it was very bloated. I mean, like, you spend 3 hours before you get to England. And I just found, like, instead of like sneaking around and like, I don't mind the kind of like changes and upgrades to fights and stuff and the combat and everything, but I just spent so much time riding around on my horse, and everyone knows that was like everyone's least favourite bit of the original Assassin's Creed. So that, you know, they slimmed down those bits and made it so that you weren't constantly going down corridors between cities and stuff. But because of the open worldiness, they were like, oh, all our other games are open world. Far Cry, everyone liked Far Cry, that's open world. So they did that to Assassin's Creed. And I think they managed to keep the reins in a little bit more for the Origins. I quite enjoyed that, but Odyssey, it was already starting to happen. I've not finished Odyssey. I really love Cassandra and hanging out with her, but it's too bloated, too many things to do. And then with Valhalla, it was just that, but times 100 it felt like for me.
We will crack these Christian monasteries like a row of hen's eggs!
I didn't like the going on raids. The assassins, you know, you're sort of supposed to be the underdog and like fighting for like liberty, and like, you know, it didn't quite work when you're like running into a monastery and all these monks are like, like, yeah, I'm the good guy, honestly. And like they did it was like, oh, yeah, it's like, oh, you don't kill anyone though. You just go in and you steal stuff. And I'm like, that's still not great. It was, I think, the game that sort of wore me out a little bit on the Assassin's Creed series, which was a shame because I really wanted to like it. I think, you know, yeah, I've always a really interesting character, but I think she could be a little bit like one note sometimes, just like angry person, and like acted really well, but I think it was just they didn't give her much to different things to do. I want to go back to sneaky, please.
But counterpoint, drinking games and battle raps.
Though you speak through another, your flighting's still poor.
Okay, this is fun and quirky, a nice little kind of like extra sprinkle, but don't worry about doing like fun little extra sprinkles unless if the cake's rubbish, the sprinkles just won't get enjoyed, you know. So yeah, they're just there to distract from the fact that you know there's not enough there. I want good filled cake, delicious spongy cake of Assassin's Creed. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but yeah.
We're all hungry, Ellen.
I want cake.
Good filled cake.
Yeah.
Though you choose to be quiet, your folly is loud.
Oh my!
So those are the games that we desperately want to love but just can't for the reasons outlined previously. Thank you so much for watching. Do let us know what games tick those boxes for you in the comments below. Check out some more videos from us. There's one up here from us, one down here from our sister channel, Outside Extra. And if you want to support the work that we do here, maybe check out our Patreon at patreon.com/OXClub. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.